Have you ever wondered how tall these mechs actually are? That's something I think about. It's something that's bothered me since the first day I started playing this game, is how tall are these mechs really? I mean, is the ankle the height of my car? Can I even touch the ankle if I was standing on the ground? It's just something that I've always wanted to know. Now, compared to these containers and these railways along here, I can't really tell exactly how tall these mechs are, but I am curious. From my point of view, this foot does not look that big, but it could be. I just don't know. Well, I'm going to find out today. Hello, and welcome to Mechwarrior Online. This is something that has plagued me about this game since day one, is there's no rudimentary measurement of how tall mechs are. And I was watching Pacific Rim, and it suddenly occurred to me that you could use building size to figure out the height. So standing against this condominium or whatever it is, this building on River City, we can see that I've got a hunchback, and this is the missile build, the one that's designed for LRMs. And we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories. So this with the AMS is 8 stories. Of course, the cockpit is at about 7 stories. So that gives a lending of how tall this mech actually is. So I'm curious, what is the tallest mech? And what is the shortest mech? Let's find out. So there are mechs in this game. Unfortunately, you can't play. You can't play any of them. But this one, including the AMS pod, is 8 stories. There's got to be a mech over here somewhere. It's the water. It's just physics. Contact. There we go.
Target acquired.
So here, this is the same mech. And I'm just going to stand next to him. Should be the same height. Yeah, thereabouts. So this one with the Gauss pod on it is definitely just a little bit taller, but a tiny amount. But overall, it's about 7 stories. Here we find ourselves in an annihilator, because why not? It's got to be the tallest mech. Slowly inching along at 32 kph. That 0.4 doesn't mean anything, because this thing is ungodly slow. Jesus Christ. But we found the same building. So we're just going to center up on this and then rotate. Let's take a look outside. So here we have an annihilator, and we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So at 8, that is the height of a hunchback 4J. 9, 10, 11. So a annihilator is 11 stories tall. There's no way of arguing it, really. The only weird thing that seems to bother me a little bit is this over here. The doors are higher than the first floor, but otherwise it's the same. Wonder what there's anything inside there. It's curious when you get up close to it. There we go. Let's see, there's a handicap sign for the door, and the lock is on the right side of the door. And you can actually see a reflection on there. And the reflection shows that there's a car at the curb. Actually, it looks like a van. There's a newspaper stand. And it's an automatic door. You can see it's a power door on the left. But when you turn around, there's no car at the curb. There's no curb cars. Interesting. River City is essentially, I guess, from some point of view, it's like New York or Chicago. Anyway. So that's the height of a door. So this window down below is probably a window for another floor below. They do that commonly in cities. But it's kind of confusing. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but underneath all the buildings and floors and stuff on most of the maps, it's water underneath. Yeah, so it's water everywhere. And what I like how it comes off the glass when you come up to the surface. Yeah. Well, where was I? Okay, so here we are at street level. Never noticed that before. Now the feet on the Annihilator are really, really short. They're not very tall. Basically just this they're planting. So this is a 11-story building in height. I always thought these things were bigger than this. I thought I was going to come up here and see that, oh look, an Annihilator is 26 stories. It's going to take me a year and 2 days to get to the Hunchback over there, so we're just going to go ahead and cut this short. But I want to get it over to at least where there's a car on the street or something. I never noticed that there's underground parking right there. Bingo, that'll work. I've never driven an Annihilator, so I don't even know what the weapons are like. What do we got here? 4 medium pulses and 4 LBX-10s. That's actually kind of impressive. So just center this out, and let's hop outside, take a look outside. So this is a transport vehicle. And here we are over to the side, and you can see the cockpit. And this is quite a tall vehicle, so these wheels are probably the height of a human being, or pretty close to it. Or maybe they're shorter. Yeah, because they're about the height of the doorway of the vehicle. So the feet on this thing are really small. So a human being is about the size of, about the height of an ankle on the Annihilator. The Annihilator's got most of its height out of its... the only thing I could say is I feel like there's a little bit of scaling issues. The Annihilator should be significantly taller than this. Here we are in a Mechwarrior-PRIME. I just grabbed a random one from the store, like I did the Annihilator, because I want to see how tall this guy is. Now I compared the Highlander 2C Highlander and the Grasshopper. I knew you guys might be thinking about the Grasshopper, but the Grasshopper is actually not very tall. It is taller than a Highlander and a Highlander 2C, but only by a small margin. Here is the Mechwarrior. So remember, the Annihilator was 11 stories, and the Hunchback standard inner sphere one is 8 stories with the AMS. It's 7 stories without it, though. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gets us to above a Hunchback, 9, and looks like 9.5. We'll just call it 10. So it's 10 stories. So this is the second highest mech I've tested so far, and you get a really good size comparison of it. And one of the things you notice is that the legs on the Mechwarrior, specifically the feet, are significantly bigger than that of the feet of the Annihilator. The Annihilator's feet are tiny, I mean, in comparison. Here we are at ground level. A little too close. There we go. Yeah, the foot on this is significantly bigger, and you can see that the ankle is a little bit higher up, I guess. Not by much. That's the support strut that leads up to the knee. I could never own this mech because I have OCD. Having 2 weird projectile weapons in one arm and something else in the other, that would drive me nuts. It's symmetry for me. Anyway, today we find ourselves in a Flea 17. Now, I don't own this one. I took this one from the store like the other mechs, but I wanted to test it for the height, because I think the Flea and maybe the Mistlings are the shortest mechs. I'm going to cut these 2 trees down just so I have a better view. I like how this building's cut in half. And center that. Let's take a look outside. So here we have the Flea. Now remember, way up there is the height of like Annihilators and Mechwarriors and so on. So how tall is a Flea? First of all, the cockpit is really small. It's less than the size of a doorway, but it definitely is big enough to house a human being. But boy, those lasers have got to feel hot against those walls. So what do we got here? We got 1, 2, 3, 4 stories, and it was 7 stories for a standard Hunchback without AMS, 8 stories with the AMS, the little AMS pod on top, and so we've got 4 stories for a Flea, and the feet on a Flea are about the size of a finger on a Hunchback. They're tiny. And what can I say? It's got big fingers. And I'm not counting the antenna array on top of the Flea, because that's just crazy. I mean, those antennas, they don't make the mech. They're just antennas. But it is neat to look at this thing up close. The attention to detail they put on making these mechs is just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I love how it's got some sort of a handlebar thing in the front, like a push bar in front of the cockpit. But when we go back and look at this doorway here, you can see that The doorway is almost the height of the knees on this mech. So we got 4 stories ish for the height of this mech. I don't think anything is shorter. By the way, I don't know if you knew you could do this, but I want to show you something really cool. Right turn, Clyde. Look at this. You're a little bit taller than the signposts with the stoplights and stuff. I just wanted to run into it just to see if I could. If you have a flea that has ECM, stealth, the whole shebang-a-bang on board, this is a place I have hidden before. Now I know, yeah, the cockpit is really low in the water. Like, take a look. It's really low. And if you turn the power off,
system offline,
it all but disappears. Now, if you're out on the main water, way out on the other side near the Gulf line and stuff, you are underwater. It's a little bit deeper over there. But that's not what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you is this. If you have stealth, you can get inside of here. And now watch what happens. If you had stealth, you would be absolutely invisible. And that's with the engine on. I had a match where I was just being a jerk, I guess.
system
And
offline.
I was the last man standing. It was skirmish, and I was making people hate the existence of the skirmish map. Because I came here and sat here until the last 3 minutes of the match. And then I got up and I started just absolutely abusing the hell out of the other team. I got 1 kill before they took me down. They legged me and then I couldn't run. Yeah. The fire on River City is absolutely the best place to go hide. Hello, sports fans. If you followed me this far, you know I'm testing the height of different mechs. This is a Kodiak 1. I figure this is a pretty good representation of a Kodiak in general. And let's spin this thing around. Take a look outside. I actually have one of these. So let's take a look at the height of this. First of all, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but Kodiaks don't have ankles. They don't. They got really low knees though. Anyway. So here we have a measurement to see how tall this guy is. So well, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's the very top of 10. So it's not quite as tall as an Annihilator, but it's definitely in the running. And it's much taller than a Gargoyle, I know that much. The cockpit is right around 9 stories. In fact, it's at the bottom edge of 9 stories because it's right inside the mouth. And it looks like the hip joint is right around 5 stories. Right, yeah, between 5 and 6 stories, but it's 10 stories for a Kodiak. It's very interesting. So if each story, well, let's just count by the door. The door is definitely 7 feet. So 7 feet there, using that measurement, gives you an idea of how tall it would actually be. So the height of each one of those window sills is hard to describe because the bottom row is actually slightly shorter in height than the rest of them. In fact, it actually looks like every other one is slightly bigger than the other, but no, actually, I think they're about the same. It's perspective. But anyway, so we got 10 stories on a Kodiak. And let's just put that into perspective. Let's go find that hunchback. In the meantime, yeah, I have this mech. It has 2 missile points, a lot of energy points, 9 energy points, and 1 ballistics point. And this particular build is an extremely hot build. I've actually run this build before when I first got it. You can see how this is going to get hot really fast. And this isn't even a match play. Match play is always warmer. I don't know why that is, but it always is.
Target acquired.
Let's stand next to this boy. Boy, it's hard to get this pure scale of it. So, it's 7 stories for the hunchback and 10 stories for the Kodiak. I've got so many things going on in my head. Anyway, so yeah, you can definitely see the difference in height, especially when you look at the hips. The hips are a huge difference. And the arms are on the Kodiak are at the height of the cockpit. So if you come around the corner and you see a Kodiak like this guy, and you're in a hunchback, he's going to shoot you in the head without even aiming for you. And that is just some perspective. Wonder if this is like a gridiron. Is it? No, it's just a 4G.
Destroyed.
And to finish off this video, I'm going to test the height of my Catapult C1. Destroy that tree and that tree. I'm Canadian. I'm allowed to do it. It's just kind of in our nature. So let's turn this thing around. And take a look outside. So we have the Catapult C1. And let's take a look at the height of the stories. So count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 stories. So with the ears, or the arms, depending on your point of view, this is 7 stories tall, which is the height of a hunchback with the either the ballistic pod or the having the AMS with the laser that goes in the head. So they're about the same height. And this is significantly shorter than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit taller than a medium mech, at least the hunchback. And let's go out and find that hunchback. Boy, that building could use some renovations. I often wondered what these buildings would be. It'd be really cool if they actually had like a little thing on the side, sign saying, you know, auditorium or music theater or parking garage in that case right there. used to be able to get these, light these trees on fire, but that time is come and gone. That was when this game first started out. The trees would burn.
Target acquired.
Couldn't help it. So the cockpit is significantly lower. I mean, look at the difference in height right here. Jesus. So this is kind of interesting. This guy is actually taller than the 7 stories. But remember when I had in the video that I did earlier, so this is significantly taller. And remember in the comparison earlier that I did, 7 stories was the maximum height of the Hunchback before. This is how I know there's a little bit of scaling issues with this game, because the Hunchbacks with the AMS was 7 stories, and this is exactly 7 stories on the Catapult. But when you compare these side by side, it's definitely a difference. Let's go back to back. Yeah, I know you got a lock. I don't care. Actually, they're pretty close. But you can see you have to give the nod to the Hunchback being slightly taller. It's part of the top of that weapons pod. God, I just love the attention to detail on this thing. Look at this, I'm standing on top of this thing. Just slightly taller, but fairly close. Fairly close. Yeah, it's really close. It's probably about maybe 2 feet taller, the Hunchback is. So I would give the nod that that's 7 stories, that they're both 7 stories. Because remember, the weapons pod was taller than the AMS pod on top. This one does have the laser on top of the head, right there. I find it interesting that the laser only takes up this much space, but on some of my other mechs, it takes up like several feet. Remember, you can put a medium pulse in there, or even a medium X-pulse. So yeah, we got a good comparison of the sizes here. Now let's walk over to that truck. Without stepping on it, hopefully. Now remember, we looked at the truck earlier, and you get a nice idea of comparison of size. The feet on the Annihilator are incredibly small, and I think the Catapult's feet are just slightly bigger. But you can get a general idea of size. I could actually put my Scion right here, and my Scion's roof rack would still be taller than this car here. or this ankle, and the foot for that matter. It's a good comparison of size. And look at the detail they put into this game. This is one of the reasons I love this game so much. Take a look at this. Well, let's take a look up above the ground. Look at the attention. The scratched metal and stuff along the sides. The undercarriage, dirty, grimy. This is one of the reasons I love this game so much. Anyway, back to the sizing.
New target acquired.
And I was in range. Wow. Oh, 1125, I forget. Anyway, so now you get an idea of the sizes of the different mechs. And so as an example, we're going to come slightly out of the water over here. I have 3 of this, so I can see. There we go. And so this would be at the beach, and I would just be peeking out of the water. That's actually pretty rough water if you're standing there. This game is just wonderful. I really dig it. Yeah, so you get a basic idea of the scale of things in the matches. Now I have a better understanding, and now I can start measuring mechs to figure out their overall height. Now that I know the different sizes, different heights of different mechs, and